Hey guys, this is part 3 of the APL podcast, episode number 3.
So, what according to you guys makes a college essay stand out? What do you think are the elements to a great college essay? Harsh.
Um, to be honest, so there's one consideration that I didn't truly make, but there's one I did. So the one I didn't make was the idea that it's very the college essays, if you're applying to the UK, to the US, or to some colleges in Asia, very different what they want. So in the UK, it's generally very to the point in terms of what you've done and whatnot. In the US, it's a lot more about telling a story and this and that. And in India, actually, it depends on which college you're looking at. So Ashoka kind of goes with the UK sort of system, in the sense that they like you to just be brutally honest. You think what you did was stupid, they like it. So for instance, we had one essay in the application to Ashoka, which I really like. It's probably one of my favorite essays, which is the idea that, hey, where have you recognized that you have made some mistake? Or talk about an experience where you change your mind after having a passionate opinion on something, right? Something along those lines. And over there, you can kind of see that they want you to just be as authentic as possible. So, in my experience, what helped me was to just think of it as I'm creating my own brand, and my brand in that sense was just to be as authentic as possible. So I could either come off as very pretentious, which is one side of it, but I tried to make sure that didn't happen by being quite open in the interview, which I think is what helped me with admission to different colleges. So yeah, I think that's the biggest consideration that I had. Although
Okay.
with the US, I'm honestly quite lost because I don't know exactly how they'd work it out. And as Meghna said, they also rather you didn't have a specific idea as to what works and what doesn't. So I'm curious to know what they also say.
Okay, yeah, Meghna, I think we'd like to hear that from you about essays because it's very important in the US, right?
Yeah, so I only applied to the US, so I have no idea how it works in any other part of the world. But I think US is very, very essay centered. So you're gonna have one university ask for 7 different essays, and they're all kind of like linked. They'll ask you what your favorite major is, and they'll ask you what your academic interest is, and they're all supposed to be completely different. So I think the only way you could make things work is to, number one, make it completely personal. It only has to be about you. And as long as it's personal, it's going to be unique because there's obviously no other person who's going to have the same experience as you. So I think if you just go through the topics and like note down specific moments in your life that relate to that topic, you just write down exactly as it happened, just like blurt it out on a piece of paper. And then eventually it will turn into an essay that's completely about you. And that's all they really want. I mean, they say that they want to know about your achievements. They want you to brag a little, but in the end, they just want to know this is the only part of your application where you could actually show off your writing style and basically talk about yourself in a way that's not restricted to 150 characters like every other part of the application. So I think just make the most of the 500 word limit. Write exactly how you would in any other essay, and then as long as it's personal in the end, they will find it unique and it'll be enough.
Okay. Is it the same thing for Canada? I'm not sure. So I think Nishka and Tanmay can clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, both of them were like completely, they were right. Like, it is important to market yourself as authentic and unique. Firstly, on a practical note, there is a lot of writing. Like, there's universities that give 8 essays. There's universities that give like page-long essays. There's people who want you to restrict it to 200. So, like, I enjoy writing, and I was still frustrated by the end of it. Like, I just really wanted it to be over. Like, it's so much writing. So, first step, just on a practical note, give yourself time, because I thought I might not need it, and yeah, I mean, I'm glad I started when I did because it was needed. For me, the big thing with, like, I applied to the US and Canada. They are roughly similar, and Singapore, but I'll talk about that later. There's basically anything, like everything can be written for those prompts. So what I did was I tried to figure out why they were asking this question. Like, why would anyone care what the first thing it would be that you say to your roommate, right? But they want to know, like, how you introduced yourself. What do you think the most important aspects of your personality are? So when I rephrased the question like that, then I was able to answer it in a way that I wanted to send it, right? And
Yeah.
another good thing to do is to definitely get other people to review it, like people like your parents or a teacher or your counselor or whoever, because sometimes I'll write something and I think it's literally genius, and then my parents say it's garbage, and they're usually right,
Yeah.
because I've been inside my head writing essay after essay for so long that sometimes you just need a fresh perspective. And also, sometimes you have an idea in your mind that this is what I'm telling the person, and when someone else reads it, they're saying, actually, this is the impression that I'm getting, and it's not very good. So
It might be
it's basically a
confusing.
long. Wait, what?
It might be like confusing on their end.
Yeah, it might be confusing, and like there's certain word choices that make a big difference.
Yeah.
I had a mentor from the US who read my essays, and I thought that was really helpful because there were some things from an Indian perspective that made a lot of sense. But then she said that, this is not giving off a very good impression. I want you to change it, or I want you to restructure the argument. So yeah, basically it's just a very long process. You have to be true to yourself, but you also have to basically go over it again and again, make many drafts, get reviews from people, and
Okay.
yeah, just try and understand why they're asking you that question.
Okay. Tanmay?
Yes, I would again like to add on to Nishka saying that essays are basically there to let the college know what kind of a person they're bringing in. They really want to know what kind of addition they're making to their community. So on an essay, I personally believe it's better to like portray what kind of a person you are rather than just state stuff. So I'm actually not too sure how is it different from US and Canada. It was almost very same, apart from
Okay.
the fact that like because I was doing engineering, I had to take an extra interview, and it was a little bit different in the engineering process, but it was almost very similar from US and
Yes.
Canada. And I applied to New Zealand as well, New Zealand,
Oh.
Australia, and they didn't require any SAS or of such. They just required to like
Yeah.
submit your grades, and then they just wanted you to like let them know if you were affected by COVID anyhow. But apart from that, they didn't require any other sort of an essay. So I think the application process is kind of chill over there. But like if you're really aiming for US, Canada, then you should start preparing early on, make multiple drafts, get fresh perspectives and different point of views. You can even ask your like friends to sometime review it, because you might have missed out on something and they could point it out, which your parents can't, because sometimes we don't share everything with our parents. So you should always get all
Wait, could I
kinds
just
of.
say? Okay. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, carry on,
Never
carry
mind.
on.
Okay, if I could just say something, this is like a pro tip, like advice. So don't try going online and looking for other people's essays while you're trying to draft your own, because websites like Reddit and I keep mentioning College Confidential because it's kind of like the bane of my existence. Everyone on there just wants to talk about how great they are during the applications, and so you're going to get very, very demotivated when you go onto that site. So the people who post their essays on those sites are going to be the top 1%, and they're going to get into the top 1% universities. So their essays are going to be great, but they will still ask you to find the flaws in their essays so they could kind of, they could show off their essay. But in the end, you're going to end up feeling really bad.
Demotivated.
So pro tip, don't go looking for other people's essays when you're trying to draft your own, because it's not going to help.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So wait, answer
Adding on to that, sorry,
Oh, sorry.
Nishka, you want to say? Carry on.
No, like you were talking about other countries. I did apply to the UK and to Singapore, where I got it. So those essays are also very different from US and Canada, because UK is very straightforward. They just want you to list your achievements. Like there's no layered meaning. They just said, I want you to make it a bit more coherent than a bullet list, but yeah, and make it related to your subject. The UK is a lot more subject focused than it is on volunteering focused. But yeah. And Singapore, similarly, they're very academic focused, and like
Yeah,
even
yeah,
there,
yeah.
like I did write 2 essays for them, but it was again very straightforward. So uh, before you write, just get to know what your university expects, and like what people don't look at examples like Meghna said, but before you start writing, just get an idea of what is expected, like what they want from it. Then keep your computer away, and then or keep the internet away and write your own essays. But yeah, different countries have different expectations.
Okay. So honestly, I think
But
we
yeah,
guys
their websites
have
bad. Yeah.
Honestly, I think that whatever you guys have said now would be very helpful for the 12th graders, as the application pool is going to open for them soon. So thank you guys for that. But how has our school academic counseling helped you to charter your selection process, like documents and like letters of recommendation and things like that?
Well, personally, I think that in one way we can't answer this question, which is
Okay.
that because it was online. Like while Sujita ma'am was extremely helpful, she kind of, I'll be as honest as I can here. She kind of babysat me through the last parts of uploading documents because I really forgot. So that was very helpful. But unfortunately, given that it was all online, essentially we couldn't really interact with our counselor as much. So I personally, it's unfortunate. I don't think we got to know Sujita ma'am. I certainly didn't get to know Sujita ma'am too well over the last year. But given that I was able to talk to Bhuvana ma'am, who worked in the same position before Sujita ma'am, I can say that it's extremely helpful. One factor that helped me was that while I have a lot of extracurriculars, this that. One main thing I needed to do, which Bhuvana ma'am helped me a lot with, was just planning out what I wanted to do. So I do MUN, I do Krav Maga, this, that, all sorts of weird things. But essentially, she told me to pause to say, "Hey, what nonsense! Don't talk about everything. You need to have something coherent, and you need to know what you want to do by the time you're at 12." So, for instance, when I was elected SPL this year, essentially the first message I got from Bhuvana ma'am was she's like, "Oh, I remember us planning it back when you were in 10th, right?"
Oh.
So I think that's one real value that our school counselors, at least certainly Bhuvana ma'am, was able to bring. And even Sujita ma'am, she was just extremely efficient and extremely professional in the way she was able to, like, honestly get me to finish off the application.
That's so
It can
sweet.
get kind of stressful, and they really do help.
Okay. Meghna, did they help with your documentation and like letter of recommendation and stuff?
Yeah, honestly, I got to know Sujita ma'am very well. I think it was kind of on my part. I organized like weekly calls with her to talk about the status of my application because it was like her said, it was a very stressful process. So I think having someone to get me through it all was definitely the only reason I got through the college application process. But I think one thing that really helped me was the form that the school sent out at the beginning of the year and like the beginning of the process. I think in July, that it helped me categorize all of my extracurriculars and my other activities in a way that it was easy for me to write my essays and work on my Common App based on that. So I think that was a really good initiative on APL's part. And then Sujita ma'am, like she handled my recommendations and all of my grades and stuff very well. So everything was submitted well in advance to my application deadline. So that kind of allowed me to focus on the parts that had to come from me instead of worrying about the application as a whole. So definitely APL was a huge contribution towards my process.
So like, when did you reach out to her? Like in 11th, 12th starting?
I reached out to her in March of 2020, which is just after 11th grade, just like the summer before 12th grade. I think that's when I like opened my Common App account and stuff. So that's when I had reached out to her.
Okay.
What yeah, actually, guys, seriously, Meghna was very smart about that. I made the mistake in that sense, and I recommend to anyone who's listening to this, if you haven't contacted, if you're in 11th, ending 11th or beginning 12th and whatnot, you haven't contacted Sujita ma'am yet, please do that now, because I had, I think, 3-4 months to actually figure all of this out. Even the form, which was extremely helpful, I filled it out extremely late. I completely forgot about it, and I think just starting it off early can help you, can save you from having a lot of stress. I think I could have applied to even more places if I just started off my application process earlier. So that cannot be discounted. Like, you can have the greatest extracurriculars in the world, have all A stars, and then just forget to apply to university because you just didn't have enough time to finish your application. So please do that.
Okay. What about you, Nishka?
Oh yeah, for me, Sujita ma'am was the person I worked with more, and she was lovely. I mean, she was very helpful for me. One perspective is that she has a lot of like insider information about what's going on at the college circle, which was very reassuring for me. Like, She told me about like my different extracurriculars, which ones would matter more. And whenever I had a question, there was some like mix-ups in the middle about documentation and deadline and things. And she was always prompt with the answer. She always, told us what we needed to. Like Meghna, I also organized some weekly meetings, and I thought they were very helpful because it helped me keep my entire application process in track. And of course, she was very prompt with all of her duties as recommendation letters and uploading transcripts and things. So yeah, overall APL school counseling was very helpful.
Okay. Tara, do you have something to add?
I would actually honestly agree with Harsh because like I worked with Bhuvana ma'am initially for the first 3 years because I was in student council as well. So I had a really close contact with her, and physically being there, telling her about the things you're doing makes a big difference. But not to say that Sujita ma'am didn't at all. Without her, I wouldn't have been here. She was always there for us. She would always give us information whenever she received it. She would be very reassuring, and she was like there for us any time of the day. Not to say we should disturb her, but yeah, with the time constraints, she really helped us any time of the day, and it wouldn't have been possible without her. So she was a big support. But I think you should always keep in touch with us to our counselor, because if we do everything at the last minute, it's a lot of stress for her as well, because she has deadlines and a lot of students to work for as well. So you should start early on. So I think I contacted her in the beginning of 11th, like Meghna. But yeah, I worked with Bhuvana ma'am before, so I think she also helped tell Sujita ma'am about things that I had done before. So you should always keep a very close contact with your counselors and always ask them for their guidance, because they know about updates before than anyone else does.
True.
So their guidance is very valuable.
Okay. This was a really nice session, guys. So we have come to the end of episode 3. Thank you guys so much for taking the time, and I really hope that we will stay in touch. And I can't wait to see what more you guys are going to do in the future. And I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
having
you,
me.
Shreya. Thank you so much for having us.